Hello, and welcome to another spooky video.
Look, I know Halloween was forever ago now, okay? Listen, this took me a minute to get up, okay? Just wanted to say a little quick disclaimer. My hair is blue and red. For the month of October, I was cosplaying as a clown. Please do not judge me and my clown hair. See, look, I even fully committed and I did it on Halloween. Ooh, clown, spooky. No hate against clowns. You guys keep doing your thing. You rock. It's just not for me. I'm already enough of a clown without the hair. Alright, that's the end of my disclaimer. Thank you for listening.
You know, I have so long to think of an intro, to really think of anything to say in these videos. A lot of the times, the days leading up to the video, I'll have full-on conversations in my head, imagining what I will be saying when I record. And I come up with a lot of good things. A lot of things that I'm like, ooh, I'm gonna remember that. And then the day comes and I press record and I don't know what to say at all. Right when I start recording, I instantly start judging myself. I'll say something as simple as, hey, and my head will be like, no, don't say hey, say hi. So then I'll start again and I'll say hi. And then I'm like, no, I need a clever way to start the video. So then I'll do something in my head that I'm like, okay, that's a little more animated. And then I think that's cringy, so then I don't do that. And then the fact that I'm saying cringy sounds cringy to me, so then I'm just like, oh well, whatever, just do it. Yeah. Hopefully as each video comes out, they get a little better with each video. I might as well mention the sack around my neck, in case you have noticed. Although this would make a great sack to just stuff snacks in to pull out whenever you want. This is, you want to come out and say hi? This is Dove's little sack. There should be a better term for that. This is Dove's little pouch. Yeah, this is her little pouch. So if you guys remember my older videos from like 2018, I did get 3 little rats that I fell in love with that were supposed to be rat food. No, that were supposed to be snake food. Quick little recap if you don't want to watch the actual video, although there are some very adorable baby rats in that video. I had a snake that was learning to eat frozen. He was on live food originally, and I was having to train him to eat frozen. And part of this training involved bringing home live rats for a while. I didn't like it, but I had to do what I had to do. Snakes gotta eat too, you know? And my way of dealing with this, because as much as I do love rats, I have to also be willing to feed my snakes. Like, that's what I signed up for. The way I coped with it was anytime I brought home a rat, I always made sure the rat looked the same. It was just an albino rat. I disassociated from it being an animal because it just looked the same every time. This is not me saying that I don't like albino rats. I love albino rats. But anyway, it was just easy to get one solid color, disassociate, pick up the rat, put it in, have them eat it, done. And that's how I coped with it. One day I came home, I opened up the bag, it was a routine day, looked inside, and it was a little baby Dumbo rat, first of all, so it had big giant ears, and it was spotted everywhere, and they grabbed onto my finger and started nibbling on it as if they wanted milk. And immediately I was just like, oh dear God, I've already I'm attached. I don't know what to do. These 3 seconds have changed everything. So then I had a dilemma. I could either go to the store, swap it out for an albino rat, let someone else have their snake eat this little rat, or I keep the rat. I went back to the store, got 2 more of their litter mates, and got girls too, thinking Goose was a girl. I knew rats were social creatures. I knew I couldn't just have one rat, so that's how I ended up with my family of rats. Now we are here 3.5 years later, and sadly this year has been really hard on my rats. They've been getting tumors, which is just natural for rats at an old age. They were bred to be food, so I didn't even think I would even get the full 2 years with them, but I got 3.5, which has been amazing. So much more than I could have ever expected, and I've bonded so much with them. They've genuinely become family. It's the bond that rats are capable of making with humans is genuinely so special. I know that the common thing is that their tails creep people out and people think of them as like dirty little street creatures that eat garbage, but they just aren't. They aren't that way at all. It's been such an amazing experience getting to build this friendship with them and genuinely seeing them reciprocate that friendship. It's very unique from my other animals. I absolutely adore every single animal that I have in my care, but I wouldn't exactly say that my snakes care about me. More so I would say that they can recognize my scent to an extent and know that I am not danger and they can feel safe with me, but beyond that I don't think that they, like, you know, they're not my friend. I might think of them as a friend, but they don't feel it back. But the thing about rats is that they really genuinely show that they feel it too, and it's just a really special relationship. Anyway, this is not supposed to be a rat video. I am gonna have a video dedicated to my rats coming up soon. Long story short, after 3.5 years, Goose passed away closer to 3 years old of a tumor. It was obviously cancer, and Pigeon just passed away a little over a week ago from having tumors in her spine. All in one night, she started having seizures and the lower half of her body locked up. She couldn't go to the restroom on her own. She couldn't eat, drink on her own. It was really fast and really sudden. A day ago, I would have said she was fine, but when that happened, I knew it was time to let her go. I couldn't try to fix it. She was suffering too much. I just recently lost her and it was really unexpected. And now we have Dove here all alone. So she's here with me because rats are extremely social creatures and she's also very old and she doesn't get to move around as much as she used to. It's not even like she has a lot to do in her enclosure compared to before when she had so much to interact with in her enclosure. Regardless of also having 2 companions in there, she doesn't even get to enjoy all of the entertainment that is in her cage now because she can't maneuver it as well. So due to that, I have her with me as much as I possibly can. Of course, she gets plenty of breaks to, you know, get water, go to the restroom, sleep in there if she wants to, but for as many hours as I can, I have her out with me and she could sleep in here if she wants to. She'll pop out when she wants to. She'll run around on the bed, sleep on me if she wants to. But she really likes this, what did I call it? Because I don't want to call it a sack. Pouch. She really likes this pouch. I just have her with me a lot.
You want to say hello? I love you. I love you so much.
Oh, thank you for the kisses. This video is just a continuation of my last video, which was tearing down all my old enclosures and the start to setting up all the new ones. I only got so far in the last video, and this video is basically just going from just the basic setup to get the animals in their cage to actually getting their final setups in their enclosures done. And in this video, we are just focusing on the cages in my room. There are more enclosures out in my living room. There's like 5 out there. Look, I went from having a whole house, the whole upstairs was literally just animals, and I had this giant walk-in closet with all the supplies, and I had their own bathroom up there, and now I got my childhood bedroom. So So my parents have been very generous in letting me have some space out in the living room right now. I feel bad. I feel like I've taken over their house, but that's my next goal after getting just healthy and getting consistent with these videos is working on moving back out. But for now, we're taking step by step, okay? Step at a time. Like I said, this video is just gonna focus on these in here. It's not gonna be very heavy with the montages, with the music over it. Instead, it's gonna be more me talking through the thoughts and choices that I made for each setup. This is not the conclusion to this little series. There is still at least one more video, again, showing the cages in the other room. I didn't want to wait any longer. I wanted to get another video up. I do still have a lot of health issues that I'm dealing with from recovery. I'm doing a lot better, but there is still so much more to go, and I need to realize that it's okay to pace myself, and just because it's not happening right now doesn't mean that it won't happen in the future. I get very focused on if I feel like I'm not succeeding in what I want this minute, that it's all gonna fall apart and I'm gonna lose it. But I just have to keep faith that I can rebuild this at a pace that works for me. As I get healthier and healthier, there's gonna be more and more consistency with these videos, and I just really appreciate everyone still wanting to check them out, even though it's been so sporadic with who knows when I'm gonna upload, and my health problems causing like random last minute changes to uploads. It's just, I know it's annoying, but it still means a lot that you still check it out. I feel like there's so much to catch up on, and we'll get there. We'll get there slowly, but at least let's start with these cages.
Alright, so the first enclosure we are tackling in this video is Salem's enclosure. So this is Salem's initial setup, the one that he had just to chill out and wait until I got to his enclosure to actually set up. There's really not much to it. There's something for him to climb, 2 spots that he could hide in on the cool side, the warm side. One is behind all these branches, the other one is that little hide, and then a water dish, and that's really it. What we are prioritizing today is to take all of this out and begin building his final setup. He's gonna go in the 20-gallon holding cage. It'll just act as a temporary housing setup for him to chill out in while I build his actual enclosure. His enclosure should only take 2 days, or basically 2 nights, because you have to wait for it to dry overnight, and then it should be ready to go. It shouldn't be too much of a wait for him. While tackling the final setup and how I wanted it to look, I definitely focused very strongly on the fact that not only king snakes, but a very vast amount of colubrids in general like to climb and explore in their enclosure. While they are not arboreal, they definitely have a lot of semi-arboreal tendencies. If you provide them with the climbing opportunities, it depends on snake to snake how much each of them use it, but a good majority of them really will make a lot out of it. I chose to have one big branch swooping out all the way to the front of the enclosure, so he has a big branch that he could spread out on and get a really good view of everything from. Just a bonus area that really made use of the depth available in the enclosure. Otherwise, the back wall has a few different pieces of wood on it. Another great advantage of having this much wood available to him is if he is going through a shed, as long as I do my part and make sure his temperature and humidity suits his needs, he'll have access to a bunch of wood to rub against in case anything gets stuck on his end of things. When I finished the enclosure, I still felt like something was missing. Right now, I am not tackling any live plants in any of these enclosures. I don't have the proper lighting. So although I really would like to do bioactive enclosures in the future, right now that's just not the focus. So I did add some fake plants in there just to further build the scene and cover up any spots that kind of felt a little barren. I really feel like this enclosure suits Salem really well. He really enjoys climbing. As a matter of fact, right when I put him in, he went straight up in the air. He didn't even use any of the wood for support. He just was like, you know what? Who needs legs? I'm going up. And he just went straight up. All the way up until the glass meets the opening door. It is completely filled with some thick layer of aspen for him to burrow in. Trying to decide on a water bowl size for him without compromising the rest of the setup was very difficult for me, actually. I wanted to have two pretty prominent hides on the cool side and the warm side, and that was really the only setback of building these types of walls. A little bit of floor space is now lost to the depth that the wall takes up. I just wanted to make sure that the hides were appropriate sizes as well as the water bowl, and the best method I found for this was to really allow him to burrow for the cool side, more so than rely on an above level hide. The above level hides that I did have took up a lot of space and really made it hard to give him a proper sized water dish, which is more important than having a specific hide that I like the style of. I'm really happy with how this enclosure turned out. I know I'm spending a long time on this one. I'm gonna try to be a little more quick with these next ones, but I'm really happy with how this one turned out. Okay, this one is going to be significantly quicker because the final look for Tofu's cage really isn't that far off from what we saw in the last video. Here is the final setup, and all I really did was add more wood to make the climbing of different levels easier. There are two humid hides, one on the floor and one on the upper levels, and then there's just a bunch of different hides on the warm side and cool side. There's some obvious ones, and then there's a lot of different nooks and crannies that he can get himself between that he likes to use all throughout the cage. So he is another type of colubrid. He is a leucistic Texas rat snake. So that's one reason he has similar traits and needs to my Mexican black king snake. Right now, he is a lot younger than Salem, so he does not need anywhere near as big as a setup yet. Yeah, this one's pretty cut and dry, so that's that one. Let's move on to the next one, okay? Unintentionally, it looks like we're tackling all the colubrids first, because next up is my corn snake, Lego. With Lego's enclosure, I really cannot remember if I showed his enclosure whatsoever in the last video other than maybe a quick swoop over it. The reason I suspect that's the case is because there really was nothing to it. There's a few cages in and out of this room that are so bare minimum that it got to a point in that video that I was like, everyone gets the idea. Again, this one doesn't need too much explaining because once again, it's gonna be similar to everything that I explained that I was aiming for with Salem's setup. When it comes to Lego specifically, he doesn't really seem to like to climb that much. And in his old enclosure, he did have some opportunities, and like I said, he didn't really take advantage of them very often, but he still did on occasion, and I'm just gonna go ahead and stick to that theme for this enclosure. But as you can tell from the shots so far, this enclosure is a lot wider than Salem's was because he does want more floor space. I do like how his background turned out. It's nowhere near as thick as Salem's was, but I did use some pieces of wood that do curve and turn all different directions. And originally, because I thought it would look good, I added more options for climbing on the ground to kind of connect the back wall with the rest of the setup. But with the original way I tried, I did not leave room once again for a water bowl, so I had to end up redoing it. This is now the final result that we ended up with. And when I say we, I just mean me and the audience watching. Sometimes people ask, who's we? It's just me and you guys, okay? We ended up with this. We're in this together, all right? But I definitely hope he enjoys it because this is a lot bigger than his previous setup. So I'm very happy with how it turned out. So let's go ahead and take a little break from the colubrids and go tackle some of the python cages, shall we? In part 1 of this series, I mentioned that I did not have enough substrate for my ball pythons, so I substituted with aspen temporarily. And so for these enclosures, even though I'm not building a final like backdrop or anything for them since they're in tubs, we still are completely redoing their enclosures from this temporary setup to a more permanent setup. Since I have 6 ball pythons, it's really gonna be incredibly repetitive. I'm gonna be doing the same thing in every cage. Instead of going through every single cage and explaining what I'm doing, I'm gonna explain it once and then just show the end result for all the ball python cages, okay? We're starting with Louie's cage, which has a lot of aspen in it, so I just had to pretty much dump all of it out and start fresh. For ball pythons, they definitely appreciate feeling comfortable and safe. It's really important that both on the warm side and the cool side of their enclosure, they can feel incredibly safe. There are plenty of setups that people will say are completely appropriate and fine for ball pythons that are just the warm side, the cool side, and a bowl. And while there really isn't anything wrong with that, especially because these kinds of ball pythons definitely do like to just ball up and find a comfy spot and sit and wait for prey, they do like to stretch out, and if you give them the opportunity, they will. Again, not an arboreal species, but I have found that my ball pythons stay in optimal shape when I provide them some sort of enrichment and not just keep them completely sedentary. So that's really what I'm aiming for all of these enclosures. I found a really neat trick with Salem's enclosure where I just tested out a spare little bridge that I had that was supposed to be for like bearded dragons, small monitors, and different species of lizards that like to bask and hang from these bridge-like structures. I had a brand new one that I was not going to do anything with, and it was just sitting there. So I tied it to the top of Louie's enclosure, and surprisingly, he uses it all the time. I have seen him out sitting in that little hammock so often. It's really, I did not expect that. Another thing that worked really well were some wooden posts that typically you see in like bird cages. I bought a large quantity of them for my green tree python enclosure, and I had some left over that I decided to try out for my ball pythons. Put one in Louie's cage, one in Maui's cage, and again, surprisingly, they do like to use it as they explore and stretch out. These were really just last minute little ideas I messed around with. With that in mind, I honestly want to go out and buy more objects like this and try to implement them in all my ball python enclosures. For now, this is all I had, but I will do a sweep back through all these enclosures in the final video showing everyone's setup, just so I could show any last minute additions I might make. Anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and show you some shots of how these enclosures ended up. I was pretty happy with them, and I'm pretty sure my ball pythons are too. Hi. So her cage definitely needs a lot of work. Are you just coming out to take a sniff? Hi. You want to come out and take a sniff? You could come sniff. You're coming out very far to sniff. Very far. Hi. You're not gonna bite. I know that. Are you just interested? Okay, goodbye. Okay, let's get this enclosure fixed up so it can look like the others. So the last snake that we are going to be talking about today is my Western Hognose snake, Celia. Duck is also another snake that's in my room, but we aren't really talking about her today because her enclosure, whew, it's a big old mess right now. Honestly, Celia's is too, which is kind of why I saved it for the end, just to give like a little progress note on it. So this cage, my vision really didn't come out of my head as well as I wanted it to. Inside my head, it looks great. It was really hard for me to implement because I just didn't plan it as thoroughly as I should have. I really jumped the gun on trying to just set it up. Hognoses in general, especially Celia, like to burrow underground. Compared to an animal such as my Mexican black king snake, these guys will definitely burrow a lot more than climb around. I wanted to try to find a way to use the height in my cage to just provide different areas to climb up on top of and then burrow around in that area. So like each little platform would have its own amount of substrate. I ended up implementing it like backwards and I completely messed up. So I just stopped halfway and just put her in here, at least for now. She has a ton of space to dig around and she uses it so much. But what my goal is to try to make it look a little more natural. Even though I'm not doing any kind of bioactive setups yet, I still want it to look more natural. Not just be filled with so much plastic that that's really all you can see. The other cages have plastic leaves and all that stuff, but I do think the wood and the stone kind of look to their hides definitely balances it out, while this is just a bunch of aspen and different types of objects to tunnel with and then just random stuff stuck to the side. It's gonna look completely different when I'm done with it, but I at least wanted to give you an update on where it is now. I kind of just didn't want to show it yet because it's really not, you can't get an idea of what I was going for from this. It's not what I was going for, but it's working for now.
Like I said, there is still one cage in this room that I'm working on, which is Celia's. I'm not very happy with how it turned out. I had a different image in my head and I just couldn't get it from my head to the enclosure the way that I pictured it. That cage still just has stuff I want to work on and I'll show the final product in the next video because it's gonna get another makeover. I'm not happy with it. And there's also Duck's enclosure that also needs to be done because that water bowl, I don't know why when I looked at the measurements online I didn't realize how big it actually was. It's not working. It takes up 1/3 of her enclosure. I want her to have more room to stretch out and stuff. When you try to be practical with the Sumatran short-tail python enclosure, they never really look that pretty. I've tried a few things with Duck's enclosures in the past to make them look better, but she really does do best on the paper instead of the substrate that I used to do, and I'm not gonna make it look pretty at the cost of her health, of course, so I just have to stick with the more plain setup. She's never gonna be an enclosure that's much of a looker, but that's okay. I just want the best for her, and she's definitely a really big girl. Also, once I move out, I'm definitely giving her another enclosure that's probably gonna be twice as big. They're not climbers, they just want to stay on the ground. That's why their body looks the way it does. It's just so short and fat and just like squish. They really stay to the ground, but I still want her to have enough space to have a bowl this size, but still be able to have a warm hide and a cool hide and somewhere to stretch and like place to properly shed. So I'm probably gonna bump up the enclosure again. I mean, honestly, a lot of these animals will be getting upgrades again when I move back out. This is just to give them the space that they deserve and make it work while I live here instead of just continuing to wait until I move out to do anything. This is at least a great start for them. I don't know if you guys remember Kronos' setup. It was huge. I really would love to put Twisty in that eventually. Right now we have this awesome cage from Zen Habitats that I'm putting him in, but that one could be like a really cool green tree python setup if I moved him into Kronos' enclosure. There's so much I could do once I get the proper space to do so, but until then I just want to make sure that my animals have the space they deserve. So that is the plan. I don't know why I put my hand over my heart. That is the plan for now. Yeah. I do still have her on my lap. She's in this little sack. She loves her sack. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. There's just so much to talk to you guys about. There's so many things to catch you up on. I can't wait to show you how much all the animals have grown and my relationship with all of them. There's likely going to be a few more little products here and there that I add to some of these enclosures. I really like the wooden poles that I put in some of my ball python enclosures, so we're gonna work on that. These videos have definitely focused more so on the cages, but it's just, again, my first step in the door back to YouTube just to get kind of used to doing this again. I don't think I can put into words how hard it is right now to remember to like check business emails, check any kind of messages and reply to them and edit and do all the things that I'm supposed to do as a social media thing. I don't even know what to call what I'm doing, but I'm really bad at all of it. She's so comfy in my lap.
Where are you going? I was trying to show you off. Can you say hello? There she is. Hello. I love you, Dove.
I also have a video coming up just dedicated to the rats, as I mentioned at the beginning. I don't know what she's licking now, but she's licking something. And yes, I'm only half dressed. I do have pajama pants on, but are you really a YouTuber or a streamer or an internet thing if you aren't half dressed? Why put pants on? No one's seeing that except everyone right now. The point still stands. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed. I'm just really excited to continue to reconnect with you guys because it's been a really long time. I hope you guys have a really happy Halloween. What day am I uploading this? I don't know. I almost forgot, but today this Furby really wants you to describe. I don't like asking people to subscribe. I know a lot of people prefer content creators not to ask people to subscribe, but I noticed over the 1.5-year break when I was gone, when I watched YouTube videos, that anytime they asked me to like and subscribe, that's when I remembered to like or subscribe if I wanted to, and otherwise I forgot a lot of the times. Liking a video does help a lot. Subscribing obviously helps a ton. It obviously does something to remind people, but it's also annoying. So again, as I did last video, today this Furby is asking you to like and subscribe. Not me, the Furby. You can't say in the comment section, don't ask us to do it. I'm not. I agree with you. He's asking you to like and subscribe. I was trying to think of a name to refer to this little dude as, and the first thing that popped in my head was Susan, which is a terrible name for this thing, but whatever. Susan wants you to subscribe, so please do it for Susan. I mean, he even has a little fluffy little puff on his butt. Please, for Susan. Or for the literal animal in my lap. Maybe subscribe for Dove. No, I'm not desperate. You might think this seems desperate. And to that,